Hi, I just got back from being flown out to shoot as a photographer for the first time in my life. And as somebody who had to struggle with trying to fit a whole bunch of camera gear on a plane, this is what I did, what I brought, and how I did it. This was a domestic flight from Toronto to Montreal. I was there for about 48 hours. If you want to see the whole vlog of that, link to that will be up here. But this is for the gear people. This is for all the gearheads that want to know what this looks like, and also the video that I wish I had going into this to see what I could, what I can't bring on a plane, and how to make all of this fit. The scope of the work here was shooting a mix of portrait, product, and a little portion of event as well. It was a pretty solid shoot day, but there was a lot of gear involved. The portraits I needed a full studio for. A full studio that I would bring with me. So this is what I did to do that. I have, you can see my home studio set up behind me. I tore that all down because I needed the two stands in the back. I needed to bring those. I wasn't bringing the seamless white paper backdrop. Instead, I brought a white cloth one, 5x7, because these were more in a kind of 3/4 or head and shoulders frame. So I knew that I could get away with a smaller backdrop. That's why the 5x7 one comes in here. Then I needed lights, and that is where all of this comes in. So I had 3 bags with me. I had my carry-on, which was equal parts clothing and camera gear. I had my one checked bag. I don't like checking camera gear because I would rather check myself than camera gear. But what I did check was all my light stands and backdrop stands and all pieces of metal that in a worst case scenario I could figure out. If I had to rent stuff, if I had to improvise, I could kind of make it work. So everything I fit inside of this was what I checked. This is the bag actually that some of my C-stands, the black one there, came in. This is from Lomtap. It's a pretty decent bag. I have overloaded it a couple times. So you can kind of see some stitching on the back here is coming out. Because in here I had a C-stand. These ones are the turtle base Century stand. So I would pop this off, right? Unscrew this guy. And then the metal pull part, I would stick in this bag. But the legs were actually just the right size to fit inside of my carry-on suitcase. So I folded them up and fit them in here, which was half just legs for C-stands. I brought a speed light in case I needed a backup flash option in a pinch. I also had my trusty Peak Design tech pouch in here, so that way it has all the bits and bobs that I need. And then I had clothes, obviously, although I wasn't there for too long, so it wasn't that big of an issue. This was almost too big to actually be a carry-on and almost had to get it checked, but I'm glad that I did not. Then the main thing, besides those 2 bags, is this guy. This is my favorite camera travel backpack bag. I did a review on this, which will be up here if you want to check it out. Also, links to everything I'm talking about will be in the description, like the C-stand that came with that bag. I got off Amazon, so links to that will be in the description down below. This is like my 3rd or 4th coffee for the day, so if I start talking a little too fast, you know why. So I had first couple lenses I had with me were the 85s. This is what I shot most of the portrait work on. I had the 24-105, which is on the camera now. This camera followed me. This was my main camera that I was shooting with. This is the Canon EOS R. Just R, classic, whatever. It did great. So that's obviously not in this bag, but then you open it up. Now on the way there, I had one of these lights in my carry-on, but on the way back, I decided to try and pare things down a bit, so I put both of the lights in here. So then I have my backup body. This is the camera that started a lot of this. This is the Canon 6D workhorse. I beat the living you-know-what out of this, but it's still kicking. It still works great. I can match it with the R pretty well, and that was my backup. Then I have 2 of these guys. These are the Flashpoint Explorer 600, also known as the Godox AD200, AD200. No, not 200, 600. I know numbers. These are my workhorse flashes. You will see them on just about every shoot that I do. Whenever I'm lighting anything, if I'm using flash, this is what it is. Now, here's the issue. These things are huge. You put 2 of these in a bag and it covers most of this bag, right? Then I had some cables, my wireless triggers, stuff like that in here. That's just this portion, right? That's just the camera part. Then, cool thing about this bag that I like is that it also has your main other compartment. Most people think is just the only main compartment, because it looks inconspicuous. This doesn't look like a camera bag, which I really like for when I'm traveling. You would never know that it's a camera bag, right? So in here, quick little color checker type gray card. I have my iPad as well that was in here. I also had my laptop, hard drives, cables, and the batteries for both of these lights. These guys here. And that's pretty much that. There was a couple odds and ends as well, but that's most of all kit. I also brought in my carry-on. I didn't want to, actually no, I checked it. It wasn't in my carry-on, I checked it. It can fit in my carry-on, but I checked it instead in my stand bag. I brought a small little travel tripod with me. This is just a Manfrotto variety because I didn't want to bring a huge tripod if I didn't really need it, but I also wanted to have a tripod just in case, especially for the product shots that we were doing. So, here's the thing. These batteries, I had to check to make sure I could bring enough batteries because I have 6 camera batteries in total between the 2 cameras. I have my phone, tablet, laptop, and then I have these giant batteries, right? I had to make sure that these complied with the regulations for the airline. They're just under the max capacity that you can have a very limited amount of. So I could have a lot more of these if I wanted to, but regardless, these flashes are freaking big and they're heavy. They have a lot of power for a monolight that's like 600 watt seconds. A lot of power, at least for a self-contained unit. They're not like a pack light where you have, 2,400 watt seconds or something like that. These are great for taking on the go. However, they're not great, as I've learned, to fly with. Which is where actually, after I finish filming this video, I'm going to go out because this is something that I want to do more of. I really enjoyed it, but I want to try and make the traveling process with gear easier. So keeping in the same ecosystem, I'm going to probably pick up a couple of the AD300 Pros. Granted, one of those is like the same price as one of these, even though it's not the same power, but they have TTL. These don't. I don't care for TTL. That's just a weird thing about me. But point being, right? These are big. And if I can have 2 lights that fits the size of one and be less heavy, less conspicuous in an airport, that's going to save me a lot of grief. Also, the last thing I want to do is have anything get stopped on the way there. These did get inspected. They looked at them and they're like, okay, this is not something you see every day, but yeah, it's fine. Keep going. I was like, yeah, photographer, these are lights and that kind of stuff. So that was fine, but it did pose a little bit of an issue. So I want to get some smaller lights that are easier to fly with. Because that's one headache. That's one thing that I encountered, right? Is you jump in head first in these kind of things. And I've been thinking about getting some additional lights anyways, just to have in my regular kit when I don't want to be like renting additional lights all the time. And I wanted to wait until it was painful and I had to get them. And I think now I'm at that point because traveling with these it's tricky. And finding the space for 2 of these, because I had to have one background light and one key light on my subject. I had a reflector with me for like a fill light, and then I had a soft box for one of these. So you keep adding these things up, and it gets to be a lot pretty quickly. And I wanted to try and keep it light and try to keep it easy to travel with, to take on a plane. And right now, this kit does not really allow for that, so I'm modifying it a bit. This is not just what I took on a plane, but also what I would change and how I'm going to change my workflow for travel photography going forward, right? In here, I have all the regular bits. If you've watched my kind of review / what's in my tech bag, There's everything in that pretty much in here. Total of 6 batteries, a whole bunch of backup memory cards. I have 2 things of empty ones and then one that I'll offload them to when they've been full. So I'm never kind of worrying about having enough space. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how I pack an entire studio into 3 bags to take on a plane to do a shoot for all of 48 hours and then pack it all back up, fly back down here. And it all went great, but there were some things that I would change. So those are the things that I would change. Honestly, I don't really think I would change anything else about the kit. The backdrop worked great. The backdrop stands were great. Carrying the C-stand on the plane was fine. Checking the bag was fine. But it was just the size of the lights presented a bit of a problem. So I think just something that still has enough power to work in a studio setting, but also something that's more portable, where like 2 lights would be the size of 1. That would be definitely ideal, especially when space gets tight on an airplane and they start trying to make people check things. If they see the size of my stuff, it's going to be the first thing they suggest, because even my carry-on bag is pretty big. You load that up, it's hard to squish down to make it fit. And this backpack can be small. Never had an issue, but I don't want to have one. And when it was fully loaded, it was as wide as my suitcase. And that would present a bit of a problem. And then, you're like trying to offload things from one bag into another to make things fit. And I don't want to do that. So that's what I'm going to change going forward about this travel kit. And that's what I did initially. It did work, but I don't think it will work long term. But it's also a bit of a lesson in terms of do what you must with what you have until it's painful, and then spend the money and solve the issues you have, because then you will realize the pain points that exist in your life, and then you'll find the exact right product to fix that pain point, which is what I've done and why I'm going with the lights that I'm going with. I'll probably do some shoots with those, maybe post a review or something like that. So make sure you subscribe to see when those come out. But that is the kit. That's what I did. This is the gear. This is how I approached it all. And it fit in Uber fine. It got to the airport. We got there. We got back. It's all been great. And it was a super incredible experience. If you want to see how all of it turned out, go click the link up here and watch the behind the scenes /vlog video. I didn't really get any behind the scenes just because I was mainly focused on shooting the entire day. And I don't know if I could record any behind the scenes anyways. But I digress. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you got some value out of it, consider subscribing to join along this journey with me. As always, my friends, remember to work hard, rest often, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Also, I don't wear these often, but I figured I'd put them on right now just because I like how they look. So, yeah, I got new glasses, but here we are. Anyways, peace.